Hello, and thank you for your interest in our new online interactive appropriations summary, a summary of the FY 2016 Utah state budget. My name is Jonathan Ball. I'm the Utah Legislature's legislative fiscal analyst, and I'm just going to spend a few minutes showing you how to use this new tool. First of all, you can see at the top a series of gray tags that tell the story in this visualization. They start at the left at a very broad level, showing all sources of revenue by fund category and by committee, and they get increasingly more finite moving to the right, so that the last tab then is individual budget changes, where they're located in appropriations bills and the like. So let me show you just a little bit about how to use this. You select a tab by clicking on it to move through the series of slides. On this first one, you can then drill down into more detail by choosing a bubble. So if I'm interested, first of all, I can see the total state budget at $14.2 billion. I can see the components of that budget and how they, the sources, how they compare in size, and by mousing over them, I can get more detail. If I click on a certain bubble, I can then zoom in or drill down onto more detail. So for instance, if I'm interested in education fund and where that goes, I can click that bubble, and it will show me on the right where it goes, which committees it's spent in. I can then clear that selection by clicking on it again to go back to the high level. Or if I've chosen a bubble and I want to go back, clear those selections, there's a little revert arrow at the top of the tab that I can click to go back to the unfiltered data. If I move to the right then from all sources at a summary level, the next slide is all sources at an account and line item level, which is much more detailed. As you can see, same number, but more detail about each line item of the budget. As I mouse over these, you can see more information pop up about each of these tiny little bubbles, this being the expense side, this being the sources side. And if I want to drill down on these, again, I can click on any bubble. So same example, if I want to see where that education fund is spent instead of at the subcommittee level, at a line item level, I can click education fund. The tool will filter all of the appropriations from the education fund. And then I can see these different color bubbles outside of the higher education and public education areas. And I might wonder, well, what are those? Where are we spending education fund money outside of education? Like what is this one, for instance? You can click on the committee names at the bottom of the page to filter and get more detail about that. In this case, I can see the education fund for social services was appropriated to the State Office of Rehabilitation, which is at the State Office of Education, which makes sense. Again, click again to clear these filters to go back to the top, or you can choose this revert button. So then moving from all sources by account and line item, you can look at, instead of the entire $14 billion budget, what were the budget changes, this $1.1 billion worth of budget changes from all sources. What happened there? Same functionality. You can filter by committee. You can click on a bubble if you're interested to see how federal funds changed. And that kind of thing. The next tab is just the discretionary general fund education fund budget, excluding all those other revenue sources. And that's a $6.3 billion budget. How was that spent? In what proportion did it go to various committees on this slide? On the next slide, we show ongoing and one-time state budget, so the ongoing $5.9 billion worth of ongoing appropriations versus the $500 million worth of one-time appropriations. Again, with the ability to filter by a committee to see how those one-time and ongoing funds were allocated. The next slide then just talks about budget changes from the education and general funds only. And you can see the largest, again, ongoing general and education fund budget change was the WP value increase, then capital improvements, then enrollment growth. And of course, you can filter on those to see by committee how things changed. And the amounts at the top will be updated based on your selection. The last tab then shows you detail about each one of those budget changes. So it lists all of the budget changes by size, starting from largest and going down to smallest. And you can choose any one of those to get more detail. If you're interested in where the WP value increase is appropriated, you can choose that and see down at the bottom it will tell you the funding item name, the committee name, the agency, division, which bill it was appropriated in, and which sort of fund it came from for the total. You can also filter this for a committee if you're interested in higher education compensation. You would click higher education, look down the list for that compensation change, and it would show you in the detail box where each appropriation for compensation was made in which appropriations bill and from what sources. So that's it for my short introduction to this new online tool. Really would appreciate any feedback you have on how to make this better, how we can serve you better. Thanks for your time.